The Las Vegas Raiders made 4 roster moves this past week that I want to walk through carefully. They tell something far more revealing about the organizational clarity throwing darts at a board anymore. This is a front office that knows exactly what it's constructing, knows exactly what it needs to complete that construction, and is executing with a precision that honestly surprised me when I laid all 4 decisions outside that goes well beyond the standard undrafted free agent signing narrative. Brady walked into rookie minicamp on a tryout. No guaranteed money, no organizational commitment beyond the invitation to compete. Every spring across this league, hundreds of players get that same invitation, and the overwhelming majority go home without a contract. The competition is ruthless, and the margin between making a real impression and disappearing back into the undrafted pool is razor thin. Brady seized his moment. He did enough during that limited window to earn a deal, and that tryout to contract. The reason this signing matters beyond the narrative is the relationship Brady carries into that building with him. He played alongside Fernando Mendoza at California in 2024 before both of them ended up at Indiana, which means these two spent 2 full college seasons operating inside the same offensive system, running the same route concepts, building the kind of shared understanding between a quarterback and a receiver that only develops through hundreds of real competitive repetitions over real time. 50 catches and 500 yards across that partnership. The numbers aren't spectacular, and they're not the point. The point is what those 2 seasons of genuine collaboration produced at a deeper level. Brady knows how Mendoza moves through his dropback. He knows the release tendencies on different route types, the way Mendoza processes coverage pre-snap and adjusts his delivery as a result. He knows where the ball is going to arrive before it gets there, and he knows why. That knowledge is not something you can install through a film session or a playbook meeting. It gets built through real shared reps over real time, and Brady already has it, fully constructed, in a way no other receiver currently on that roster possesses. Think about what that means practically for a rookie quarterback who is simultaneously trying to absorb an entire NFL offensive system from scratch. Every hour Mendoza spends working with a receiver who already speaks his football language, who already understands intuitively how he thinks and where the ball is going, is an hour of developmental efficiency that cannot be purchased through normal roster construction. Front offices spend years trying to manufacture the kind of chemistry Brady already brings into this building pre-assembled. The Raiders recognized it, watched Brady compete on a tryout and prove he could handle the professional level, and moved to secure the asset the moment it demonstrated its viability. That is sharp, forward-thinking roster management. There is also a local dimension to Brady's story that I don't want to move past too quickly, because it actually matters for what this organization has stated it wants to build culturally. He's from Las Vegas. Grew up here, played high school ball at Bishop Gorman, and he just earned a professional contract with the franchise representing the city he comes from, not through any organizational favor, not through anyone calling in a relationship, but through outperforming the competition during a tryout period where the organization owed him nothing and he gave them everything he had. His second team All-Big Ten recognition as a return specialist adds the special teams dimension that makes him a genuine contributing roster asset rather than a depth placeholder carried purely for his Mendoza connection. The complete picture of what he brings, the quarterback relationship, the return ability, the competitive fire that got him here through the hardest possible route, is precisely the kind of multidimensional value that organizations with genuine clarity know how to find and act on. Now let me take you to Canada, because this is the move that told me the most about how proactively and creatively this front office is willing to think when it comes to protecting their franchise quarterback's development. Nicholas Henning was the 2nd overall pick in the CFL draft. The Toronto Argonauts had him. He had not played a single professional snap at any level, and the Raiders signed him before he set foot on a CFL practice field, which means they were working entirely off college tape from Queen's University, cross-referencing whatever their internal scouting evaluation produced, and concluding that the developmental ceiling was compelling enough to act before the CFL had any chance to develop him and potentially make him unavailable. That is proactive organizational behavior. That is identifying an asset before the market establishes its value and moving with enough conviction in your own evaluation to get ahead of everyone else. I want to be clear about what Henning is and isn't right now, because overclaiming this signing misrepresents what the Raiders are actually doing here. He is not walking into week 1 of the 2026 season as a starting offensive tackle. He's currently under 300 pounds, which means significant functional weight needs to be added before he can consistently handle NFL caliber pass rushers who are already built for this level of competition. That physical development process takes time, the right nutritional support, and a developmental coaching environment that can accelerate the timeline without compromising the physical foundation being built. Nobody inside that organization is pretending otherwise. But the foundation underneath the current weight is what caught the evaluator's attention: 6 feet 6 inches of frame. The movement quality and positional adaptability that earned him second-team All-Canadian honors while playing multiple positions. He started at H-back and tight end before moving to offensive tackle and excelling there as well. That kind of football versatility across wildly different positional demands doesn't get coached into a player on a short timeline. It comes from a specific combination of football intelligence and body awareness that tends to translate across competitive levels when the right developmental conditions are present. And the detail I keep returning to, he anchored a championship offensive line at Queens. Championship experience at any level, even Canadian college football, installs something in a player's competitive framework that players from losing programs simply don't carry. The Raiders saw enough to move decisively before anyone else had the chance to recognize what they were looking at. The Jonah Williams situation is where I want to spend the most time because it represents the most consequential pending decision for this roster, and the one that will define whether this front office is genuinely willing to make the full final investment required to complete what they've been building. Williams is 28 years old. He came into this league as a first-round selection and has spent 5 professional seasons building the specific technical foundation at offensive tackle that cannot be drafted or developed on any short timeline. The footwork under pressure, the hand placement discipline across extended pass sets, the ability to read and counter complex pass rush combinations from elite defensive ends who have spent their entire careers developing and refining counters of their own. Those capabilities accumulate through years of real professional experience in real games with real consequences attached to every individual rep. Williams has 5 seasons of that accumulation already behind him. The right tackle position in Las Vegas has been a genuine area of concern, and in the specific organizational context the Raiders are currently operating within, that word carries considerably more weight than it might in a conversation about a different team. They just used the first overall pick on a quarterback. They've invested meaningfully in the interior of the offensive line. They've built the kind of protection infrastructure that communicates a single, unmistakable organizational priority. Give Mendoza every possible competitive advantage to develop into the franchise quarterback his tape says he's capable of becoming. Leaving right tackle as the one unresolved vulnerability in that structure after every other investment this offseason has made would be the single decision that undermines the coherence of everything else they've assembled. It would be the gap in an otherwise complete wall. Williams at approximately $10 million annually is a real number, and I'm not going to pretend it's trivial, but the Raiders entered May with roughly $20 million in available cap space. Signing Williams consumes half of that flexibility while eliminating the single most significant remaining structural risk in the protection scheme surrounding their franchise quarterback. The alternative is going into training camp with a right tackle situation that the coaching staff privately understands is unresolved, hoping a younger or less experienced player makes a developmental leap large enough under live competitive pressure to provide consistent protection on that side. That is a bet on a timeline that may or may not align with Mendoza's most critical developmental window. Williams removes that bet entirely. He is a known professional quantity at a position of critical importance, and the financial commitment required to bring him in fits within the framework this organization is working with. This isn't reckless spending chasing a short-term fix. This is the logical completion of a roster construction project that has been building toward this specific outcome across the entire offseason. And then there's Jamon Davis, and I want to give this one the honest treatment it deserves because the human dimension of it sits in real tension with the organizational logic that produced the decision. Davis was the 19th overall pick out of Kentucky. That selection carried the full weight of franchise investment and public expectation. What followed was a career shaped by circumstance and organizational instability as much as by anything within his own control. Released by Washington during his 4th season, practiced squad time in Green Bay, brief stints in Minnesota, 4 games with the Jets before another release. back to the Jets organization before another cut during final roster trimming. Then Las Vegas, where he moved from the practice squad to the active roster, appeared in 2 games including 1 start, recorded 3 combined tackles, and was released the day before rookie minicamp opened. He is 26 years old. That number is the part that makes the whole arc genuinely difficult to sit with. A player with real physical gifts, evaluated highly enough by professional scouts to go in the top 20, who never found the right combination of scheme, coaching stability, and organizational continuity to develop those gifts into consistent professional production. The NFL's capacity to produce exactly that kind of career. The talent that enters with everything the evaluation suggested was present and exits without ever finding the environment it needed is something I find hard to observe without a real sense of what was lost to circumstance as much as to anything else. But I also believe in being honest about what this specific decision communicates about this specific front office, because softening it misrepresents the clarity they've been demonstrating all offseason. They are building something with a defined shape, a defined identity, and a defined set of player profiles that fit the scheme Rob Leonard is installing on the defensive side. That scheme has specific requirements at linebacker in terms of athleticism, positional versatility, and scheme comprehension. Davis didn't fit those profiles in a way that justified carrying him through minicamp when the organizational focus needed to be entirely concentrated on the players who are genuinely part of what's being constructed here. Releasing him before minicamp opened maximizes his available time to connect with another organization, while keeping Las Vegas's evaluation process fully directed at its actual objectives. That's not callousness. That's a front office that understands the difference between sentiment and sound organizational judgment, and has the discipline to act on that understanding even when the decision carries real human weight. What I keep returning to when I look at all 4 of these moves laid out together is the coherence running through all of them simultaneously. Brady earns his contract through competitive performance and arrives with a quarterback relationship that no normal roster construction process could have replicated. Henning gets pulled from Canada before he plays a single professional snap because the physical foundation justifies the developmental investment and the Raiders wanted to be first. Williams is being linked to the right tackle position because completing the protection around Mendoza is the necessary final step in an offensive line investment that has been building all offseason toward this specific moment. Davis is released cleanly and early because this roster is being built around what players are and what they can genuinely become, not around what they were when another organization believed in them under different circumstances in a different era. Every one of those decisions reflects the same internal framework operating with the same clarity, the same understanding of what this organization is building and what it specifically needs to get there. That kind of coherence across 4 separate roster decisions in a single minicamp week is genuinely rarer than it appears from the outside looking in. After the years of organizational instability and directionless decision-making that characterized too much of this franchise's recent history, watching the Raiders execute this consistently and this visibly across a single week is something worth recognizing clearly for exactly what it represents. This front office has found its direction. More importantly, it has found the discipline to execute that direction without getting distracted by sentiment, reputation, or the gravitational pull of decisions made under previous regimes. That is how franchises actually get built. And in Las Vegas right now, it is visibly and concretely happening.